So today is Monday, the 11th of July 2022.
Yeah.
And I'm here with an illustrious character who is going to reveal his identity in a while. So here he's seated quite comfortably in this environment, congenial environment, which is a sort of resort. So here he is. So your name is? What's your name?
Nazir Fizal Mohammed.
Okay, can you tell me about where you were born and your parents?
I born at 91 Bonnie Road, Princeton.
Okay.
That was the main street from High Street, Princeton to Buen Village.
Okay.
At that, growing up there.
Buen Village is on the northern side of Bonnie.
Yes, the northern side.
And it is between Princeton on the west and
The west.
Village.
The west.
Oh no, in the south, yeah.
South, Magnitude and God is on the west.
Okay.
On the east would be Pragnish Estate
Okay.
and Palmies and Farm Estates. And of course, well, on the north it is boundary with Eckerdville and
So those are villages beyond Buen Village, okay?
yes.
Okay. And you were born here, you said, and can you tell me something about your parents?
All right, my parents, they got married and they born and they grew up at 91 Bonnie Road and they established the family. My father came from India. I grew up with him also, Katerjama Mia. So I lived with my grandfather as a child growing up, so I knew him well. And my grandfather came and settled at that same 91 Bonnie Road. And all his children born, grew up there, and then they married and they went in the different areas. My father stayed. My father, Haji Usman Mohammed, and my mother, they stayed with my father. And my father looked after them. And at that same place there, when we got married, we decided to stay there with my parents. And staying there with my parents, well, God bless us with 5 children, big children. And the family maintained a legacy that, to maintain that sort of thing that is stay on with the senior people. So when my last son was going to get married, Fizal Mohammed and his wife Sultan, my eldest son spoke with his Hashan's wife to let her know what is the family legacy. That my grandfather stayed on, my father stayed with his grandfather, I stayed with my grandfather. And they would like that her to, when she gets married, to live with us. So really that worked out well. That
You're speaking about your daughter now, is it?
Huh?
You're speaking about your daughter now?
A daughter-in-law.
Your daughter-in-law, okay.
She is Sultana, a school teacher.
Okay.
So right now, my son and my daughter-in-law and I, we live at Buen right now. So over there is like the family headquarters.
Okay.
So everybody will come.
That is the family house, traditional. Passed on from grandfather to?
Yeah.
Now, let's go to something. When you were growing up, as far as you recall, can you describe Bonnie, is it? Bonnie, the date what that you know it to be?
Of course. In growing up as a young child, I remember I attended the Princeton RC school. And That is the school where all the villagers' children will attend, and also with the Presbyterian school. But I remember well that the Bonitento estate, as a matter of right across there was what we call an animal pen, a holding. You will know about that because they had that down brothers with brothers.
Yes.
And over there, they had this big animal storage pen, and animals were well fed. In those days, they had mules. The mules were fed with chop, that is it, cut the cane up and the chips cut up, mixed with molasses. And when they come in on an evening, they fed with that, and they get molasses water to drink.
But those were animals, they were used for hauling cane, sugar cane.
Yes, those animals were used for the pulling up the cane. So they were well fed. And right in the area here, they had what you call an animal hospital.
Okay.
That if animals fell ill, they'll put the animal there, and vet will come and look after them and so on. Now I remember on the hill here when you're coming, always sugarcane, the whole area.
So the opposite side, where that new development is there, that housing development?
That whole housing developed, all those areas were in sugarcane.
Okay.
The whole area, all there. That's nothing like houses.
So the mule pen was located around that
in the valley.
In the valley there, okay.
The mule pen was situated there. On the hill there, you had a colonial building where Englishmen would have resided and managed the estate.
So that is where the hardware is now?
No, over the road.
Over the road, okay.
Over the road.
So, did they have bison then?
We had bisons down here, much. Bisons were more used in the areas where the lands are very flat.
Okay.
And, and bison will be able to traverse the area better. And seeing the location of the area, you find the mules operated better.
Okay.
You also had farmers who had their own animal drawn cart that they were allowed to come and pull cane for the estate.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, where the pen yard was located, there was also the office area for Bonitento Estate, and they had established a bell, special bell, that in the morning 5 o'clock, the person on duty would knock that bell, and all the employees who live in the estate houses, barracks.
Okay.
Now you had, on this road coming down, you had barracks on both sides. You had barracks on side roads.
So where we are here now, this is a barrack, these are the barrack premises.
No, here had sugarcane.
Okay.
But next to this land here,
Okay.
this is 6 acres there. Next to this land there,
That's on the north.
on the north, they had a big pond,
Okay.
about an acre and a half inside. And the indental laborers and their families would go there to wash their clothes
Okay.
and bathe and so on. To the back of that, they had a nice, strong concrete bridge that the water used to flow over. So people would go there and bathe, and also the back in that area had a boundary to Fragment Estate. They had barracks. So people were living there.
Who had owned Pragnish Estate? Who had owned Pragnish Estate?
Pragnish Estate was owned by the former Gopols. Gopal.
Okay, Gopal. But did they cultivate sugarcane also?
They had their own sugar mill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is where the school is somewhere over there, the Presbyterian school?
No, further.
Further.
Because I remember as a boy, I used to use that same road as a side road
Okay.
to go to the agricultural breeding unit to carry goods to meat.
Okay.
And the sugar mill that they had there, I remember seeing nice crystal sugar. It is not, it wasn't as, big and up to date, but they did what they had to do.
You speaking about the mill, right?
Yeah, the sugar mill for Pragnish Estate.
But to be a little specific as to location, can you describe, there's a road going in there that goes into Naparima Road. This is the Tasca Road?
Yes, this road will take you to the Naparima.
What is the name of this particular road?
This is Bonitento M1.
So this connects, this leads to St. Martin Sugar Factory. Okay?
Yeah.
And we are just in the valley here, where the road, we now ascending the hill there, right? And we are in the valley. And on the east was Gopal Estate. Is that so?
Gopal Estate.
Yes, and there was a sugar mill there.
Pragnish Estate.
But what Gopal? Was he an Englishman?
No, local.
Indian?
Yeah.
Okay. So they competed with the who owned Bonitento Estate?
Bonitento Estate was owned by Eugene St. Martin, a well-established foreign-based company.
So Gopal was in competition like?
Well, I don't want to use competition. They did their own investment.
Okay.
And they managed to a point and they had to close on the operation.
Okay. Because public competition.
Yeah.
And modernization and so on.
Right.
Okay. Let's go. Right, go ahead.
All the sugar cane on the Bonitendo Estate used to be transported by rail to St. Martin.
But where does this rail, furthest to where did it go on the east?
No, not to the east.
Okay.
This rail went through that road. See all the squatters there?
Yeah.
That's where the rail track is running.
But it came here. Did it come here?
From here, no, it stopped right in the valley there by the pen.
Okay.
Right, and from there now, they will have different outlets where they will load cane and they will collect the canes on carriages and carry it to now. They also had a diversion from Bonitento to go through Magnitude. Now, Magnitude, after the water pumping station, there is a tunnel.
Yeah.
And that tunnel, the carriages, the locomotive, used to go through there and pick up canes also from the other estates to go to the market factory.
Okay. But did the rail that transported the cane, sugar cane, did it go eastward anywhere? Did it deviate?
No, the sugar mill is on the west.
No.
So they will go from this location, which is the east,
Okay.
to St. Martin. Now the government had their own rail transport where for people to travel. And from Williamsville to the back there, they had real transport to Rio Claro.
To Rio Claro.
Rio Claro. But
Going
not,
through, which route did they take?
not the full case. That is just for passengers.
But not here, not here. They didn't pass here.
Huh?
You did not pass anywhere close here.
No, no.
That's a different route. Okay.
That would have passed down Williamsville by yours.
What I'm talking about here, where the furthest on the east was cane cultivated, sugar cane cultivated.
Oh, cane was cultivated up to Ecclesville area.
Ecclesville, that is where Rio Claro you're talking about?
No, you have a Ecclesville, right?
No, that's not. I'm talking about Govin Village, the east of Govin Village.
No, but they had canes, all along the area to a place called Palmis. Palmis and Farm Estate. Those were private estates.
Where, around this location here?
No, further down on the east.
Are you talking about near Govin Village?
Before Govin Village.
Oh, there was another plantation there.
The same plantation, same company, but it's how the land was laid out. As a matter of fact, right now where Lakshmi Singh has his
over there.
plant, that is the area there was one of the main ruling stations.
Okay.
And the road there was the road going into Palmis and farm.
Okay, you talking about Palmis in the east, that is, in this direction there?
Yes.
Okay.
Palmis road.
I know. That direction, yeah. So did the rail ever deviate and go across at that end? No. Okay. Let's go now to your childhood days, what you observed as a child. Okay, let's not move away here. Let's speak about the barrack. Did you live in the barrack anytime?
No, I never lived in any barrack.
Did you visit the barrack?
Oh yes, I go to barracks, I played in barracks.
So tell me, can you describe the sets of
barrack?
how it was?
All right. All barracks were wooden structures. And they provided barracks depending on the size of families.
Okay.
For couples and extended. And the barracks were prepared in such a way that they have a bedroom, a private area. They have a dining area, and to the front you'll have the kitchen, where the wooden chula and so on.
But how many people were accommodated in one barrack?
Okay. You had barracks that had apartments.
Okay. Yeah.
And sometimes you have several families living in an apartment together.
We understand that, but there were 2-room apartments?
No.
3 rooms? Well.
They would have, each family would be given an apartment.
Okay.
Either with 2 beds or 1 bed.
2 bedrooms, right? But did they have bed then?
Well, they built stands like
Settee or something like that?
settee
With what?
with grass and so on.
With grass. That was the mattress, is it?
That was the mattress.
And what about coverlet and bed sheet and so on?
Well, of course, people would be provided the initial stage, but then they will work and buy their own things for what you call the apartment.
But how many baths you think there were around here?
In this area here, Bonitento Estate had over 50 barracks.
Buildings?
No, apartments.
50 apartments.
Yeah,
No, it's one long structure
that's it.
containing 50 families, or they were
No, well,
separate.
you will have some, depending on how the land is located and the road.
No, there were several barrack houses. I was telling you.
Yeah, barrack houses
Alright.
with varying numbers of apartments.
Apartments, okay. Yeah. But how many people think there were the population, the barrack population?
At that time, what I can remember, the majority of the people in the village were indentured laborers. So they were assigned to the estate.
Okay.
And their offspring that were growing up were also working with their parents in the fields. But after serving 5 years on the contract as an indentured laborer, some were allowed to go back. But the majority stayed, and they will get land, will get housing, lots, and build their own homes and so on. Like in my case, my grandfather, I remember he had in the village there 2 plots, and he built on his own. And so it is with other people in development, you know, they try to have their own independent lifestyle.
Okay, let's go. What about the toilet facilities and so on?
All were outhouses.
How many people share in the same?
Listen,
Yeah.
a family
Yeah.
would have their own outhouse.
Who will build that for them?
The estate management.
So a family will have its own outhouse
Yes.
to the rear of it.
And that is for
They
their
didn't-
own privacy.
They didn't share it with other people.
With other villagers,
Yeah, no.
Uh,
Well, say the other barrack
other
dwellers.
back people, they might have, but very often each family had their own outhouse.
Tell me, what year are you speaking about?
I am talking from 1944. So I was born in 44 up to 1950 as a little boy growing up and so on.
But where did they go after they left the barrack? Where did they settle?
They started acquiring their own land in the village, and they were fortunate to get lands in the village because the company allowed that, and they built their own homes and so on.
So, did the company have a settlement and such, like with infrastructure and so on, or they just?
No, well, what the company did to accommodate the people is that they provided a barrack arrangement. And then when people started building their own places and so on, and leaving the barrack started demolished. And I could account for barrack, Bonitento, Cedar Hill, Kitimoon had a big barrack area, but all that over the years, because of economic and social development, people start moving out, the children getting educated, they want to get out from the sugar industry, though they will have some attachment.
Okay. So let's concentrate on Bonitento now, right? Was that an approved settlement like the company, or they build houses helter-skelter? You know?
Company never build houses, they build barracks.
But how are these people concentrated in one area? Along the road there, along that road
All
there.
right. Everybody start building their own small houses, carrot houses.
But the houses then were built of karat, is it?
Yeah, I think.
Okay, well,
I grew up
describe
in a carrot house.
Yeah, well, tell me, describe it.
Huh?
Describe that.
All right. They would build, it's a flat house,
Mm-hmm.
and they would use rose wood. has the partition around, and they'll dig dirt.
What is Rosa?
Rosa is a kind of wild cane.
Okay.
You'll see Rosa,
Yes.
right? So they will use that on the walls, just as far as the house, and they will use this, they call it the tapia house.
Okay.
And they will use dirt and cow manure and so on, and
Face it.
plaster it up.
Please, plaster that. Okay. There was no cement used then. But,
No.
okay. And what about the accommodation, the room? How big was our house?
Okay, well in those days, it depends on the size of the family. They would expand the room
Okay.
privacy because they'll get married, they have room spouses and so on.
Okay, let's go back to that Bonington. I've seen now. How far is Princestown from here, from the Bonington?
Alright. From the market in Princestown, where the market is Passage Street or Short Street,
Yes.
and from Water Lane Junction, where the market is, you're coming down to Buen Temple. And where we live would have been about 3/4 miles from Princestown.
3/4 mile, there's what you can walk in distance.
Oh yeah, in those days people were walking.
You see, what I'm concerned about now is we see that the houses were built alongside. Was that a trace? Or is it is now fixed?
Well, in those days, they had gravel road,
Gravel road.
with the San Fernando gravel, and they had no pitch and so on.
Okay.
But I recall that my brother, he passed on, Fizal Mohammed. He was 6 years older than me. We started the Bonington Village Council, home at us.
And what year was that? What year was that?
That was in 19... around 1944, around 1960,
Okay.
55, 60 thereabouts.
What was the population then, you think?
The village was thickly populated. There was no vacant housing spot. All houses had families. The majority of the people then were Hindus. And then you had some Christians. You had some Africans, but they were scattered through the village. And the Muslim population always remained between 9 to 10%.
How much? 9-10%.
Yeah.
Now, well, let's be kind of, it's just an average. At that time, what was the size of the population?
The population?
Yeah.
Okay, from on the Bonington village, the population would have been about 400.
400 people. And what sort of
We're talking about children.
children inclusive?
And in those days, families did have plenty of children.
Okay.
I know some families have 10, some have 14, 6, and that kind of thing. In my generation, we were fortunate that we still had 5 children.
Okay. But the school, you had a school nearby?
The school was situated and it just shifted a little where the Roman Catholic Church is.
Okay.
You had that school there, a wooden school, and then they expanded and they built a new school. nearby.
But were the people interested in sending their children to school during that period of time? During your time?
Well, the children, we had choices to go to the school. We had the Presbyterian school, but the Presbyterian were the people who then were in charge of the Canadian mission.
But where was that Presbyterian school?
The Presbyterian school is situated on the T-junction, Manahami Road and Naparmiago Road.
Okay, that school is still there now, was it?
No, that school was demolished and they were hoping to rebuild it. So the Presbyterian school, they had built this Presbyterian school here.
Okay, in Kagnish?
Gopoland.
Gopoland, okay.
And when they built there, they moved those children from there and they came down here on a shift system. And that is going on for years.
And that is just east of you, right? The east of where we are here.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, but during that time, your time, were children, the parents, were they interested in sending their children to school?
Oh yes, everybody encouraged their children to go to school. And as a matter of fact, in my case, I remember going and I finished off in primary school at age 15 years. And at that stage, there was nothing like thorough guidance, that you have anybody guiding you. Secondary education has to be paid for. And I never went to a secondary school.
Okay, where was the nearest secondary school located?
The nearest secondary school would have been Naparima College.
Oh, that's San Fernando. That is about 10 miles from here?
8.
8 miles, okay. So, were there people in this village during that time who took advantage of going to Naparima College? Were any secondary school in San Fernando?
Okay. Apart from Naparima College, they asked us that had the girls' college and the boys' college.
But that's recent, that's recently.
Over 50 years.
But we're talking about your time, your
Only Naparima College and Fred.
presentation. Those came in the 60s. In fact, I passed to go to Asia College. And they hadn't built the college yet, right? I would have been in the place.
We had passed Asia.
Yeah, but I went to another college, right? That they are now going to open it, right? So there are entrance examinations. So that's 60s as well. Yeah, the late 60s. No, the early 60s. Yeah. So that you know of anybody here who was educated at secondary level in Bonifento?
Okay. Subhash Pandey grew up in the village. And Subhash when we put
Preceding him, we're speaking about the 50s, he went to St. Stephen's, right?
yeah.
But I'm talking about during that time, who took advantage or who were able to go to a secondary school in San Fernando? Who are the people? Can name one or two?
You had few families who had children
Okay.
that went.
Okay.
Because they paid for their tuition fees.
And what about commercial school and so on here?
There was one commercial school situated in Richlands by the name of Miss Noriga's Commercial School.
Okay.
And that was one of the popular things then.
So people they took advantage of that.
Yes.
So the secondary education was the only thing, the only level, the highest level they ever gone to in education. So tell me about yourself now. You went, which school did you go to?
I went to the Princeton Art School.
And after, what class did you go up to?
I finished up the first primary.
Okay. First primary is what now?
That would have been 7th.
Okay, and after that?
My next college was Cambridge.
So you had worked in Canada as a laborer?
In our estate. My father had 10 acres of land.
Okay, so that is, okay, you assisted the parents, right?
Yes.
Well, they never paid children on time?
Well, there, in those days, I'm talking about most of the farmers. Where I live in Bonton, do you know where my house is? We used to stop and talk to many,
yes,
right? From there, the valley started running from there. So way down in Palmis area. And that valley, when the rainy season comes, that whole valley will be in rice for maybe 2 miles. Farmers would have their own rice field. As a matter of fact, my father had his own rice field. And all the farmers had rice fields. And those who had land, they grew from provision, they rear animals, they grew different kind of crops and so on.
The intercropping.
So food used to be in abundance in those days.
Okay. No, I'm confused about this place called Palmis. Where is that located?
Palmis is more on the east
Of
the Bonitento last estate loading station.
Okay, that form part of Caroli.
Yes,
But the land belonged to Caroli.
yes.
But how far did it go up? Did it stretch to where?
That go up to the estate called Farm Estate, which is our private estate.
Okay, owned by whom?
Private owner.
You don't know the owner.
I don't know. It handed down from generation to generation.
Which is the nearest village to that?
The nearest village to that would have been St. Julian, New Grant and so on.
There was no rail connection to New Grant?
No,
No, nothing.
no.
So this was the furthest it went.
The service was from Williamsville. The rail track ran in the low areas straight to Rio Claro.
As on the east?
Huh?
As on the east?
On the east.
Okay.
And where in those days you had rail carriage to transport people. And where that tunnel is called the
Nolly's Tunnel.
Nolly's
Yeah,
Tunnel.
yeah, that's a different location.
And the house next to that was my grandfather brother.
Okay. Okay, let's come back to you now. So you, after having worked in your parents' cultivation estate, what did you do?
Okay. As I said, there was no career guidance, and I started attending evening classes privately in the night.
What subjects?
English, maths, and so on. And the principal then was Mr. Byron. So I started going to Byron's place, and then the idea came to me that try to learn a trade, even though I'm in the field, because I'm getting an opportunity to do what you call house wiring, electrical wiring.
Okay.
So I did that maybe for a year. And
Trained by whom?
by a guy called Sudama,
Okay.
one of my neighbors. But he migrated and he went to America. And then there was no opportunity to do nothing. And it was my desire to join the police or the Coast Guard or what you know. So I went to them for interviews and I was too young. And then within a few months, I acquired 18 years and I was hired with County Supplemental Police. And I started going there, working there. When I started working there, my officer in charge was a retired instructor from the Trinidad Police Service. So, as a young man, I was placed under his guidance. And I love his style. He would guide us, when he's having lectures and so on. But we must educate ourselves, learn to do public speaking and so on. And whatever he said, I got into.
Okay. Now you are speaking, you are a policeman, is it? In other words?
Yeah.
A policeman. Okay, so you all had uniform and so on?
Yeah.
And what was the duty like? Doing what?
I'll show you that photograph.
Okay, what you did as a, what did you do?
Khaki uniform.
No, what did you do as a policeman, as a state company?
Well,
Sugarcane.
we did training and we were precepted by the Trinidad Commissioner.
No, what was your function then?
Our function was to ensure that there is security within the company's operation.
But where is it? Around the sugar mill?
Factories, the residential area, all where the company have assets.
Okay, but how did you all provide security for, let's say, the company assets outside using St. Marlin?
We use Land Rovers
Okay.
to go to the various areas and do our checks and so on.
I see.
Security checks.
Okay. What about preceding the Land Rovers? But when you were growing up, people probably would have been injured, and in the sugarcane field, what did they do? Where did they get medical attention?
If an employee had gotten injured, they had hospital barracks where they will go to attention.
In the barracks?
Yes, at that time.
Yeah.
But then with the sugar company itself, they had their own clinical arrangement, like using St. Martin, catered for all the employees in the using St. Martin estates, like the Fortunate, Picton, Pitimon, Cedar Hill, Reform, the Fortunate, and these people come on certain days, clinic days, for treatment and dependence and so on.
Who said there was a doctor there? An office. There was a doctor's office. There was a doctor's office there.
Not a doctor, clinic with a doctor, senior doctor, and 3 other medical officers working full time, and about 6 nurses on shift, and a pharmacy well stocked.
Okay. But before the Land Rover was used to transport as a transporting medium, how did they move around? By horseback, mule,
Horses,
horses.
but not security.
Security.
Security, they started off with Land Rovers.
Okay. With Land Rovers came security. But otherwise they had watchmen, is it?
Pardon?
Did they have watchmen? Watchman.
Watchman?
Yeah.
They had watchmen at different locations, pens, whether different pens and so on, where they had certain assets.
Okay.
And its security, or what security, would oversee those people.
Okay. That is in addition to the official security as a police, right? You will okay, let's go now to you never worked in the estate as a cane cutter, so you cannot talk about how what was the salary then?
Well, I mean, not because I never worked in the estate field.
Yeah.
I knew what was going on in the estate.
But can you describe something in the estate there that is of importance?
Okay, let me use an example. I started in 1967.
Okay.
No, 1963 at $90 a month.
As an
As a estate police.
Okay.
$90 a month. So the people who were working in the fields doing different type of jobs, at that time they were being fetching between $50 and $60 a day if they had job work and so on. And then when I got into security.
What a day you said? How much a day?
No, for the fortnight.
Oh, okay. $15 is it?
No. The people who work in the field in those days, when we work at $1.10 a day.
Okay.
And I'm talking after Solomon and my father. Because Solomon worked in the field at that time at $1.10.
Who is Solomon?
David.
Oh, David. Solomon David. Okay. But let's come to you now. How did you move out? Did you move out being a security officer and promotion?
Oh, yes. As a matter of fact, 55 years ago, started in the 9th, would have been 55 years my wife and I married. And whilst we were on honeymoon, my father and brother came in the night and said, pack up, you are called at the police training college. You're going on a specialist course that the company sent you to train dogs.
Okay.
And so here is it. Got married on the 9th, and on the 17th of July, I was at the police training college for 9 months.
Okay. Training dogs?
Yeah. Training to train dogs.
As a trainer? You didn't go as a student? You as a student trainer?
No. First, anybody have to be a student. They train you. They training the trainer.
Okay. And what was after that? What happened?
Right.
Okay, this is Sam Sarab about to resume this interview, which for the technical reason was aborted. And to continue, I'm going to switch you over now to the gracious, the honorable, the erudite Fizal Mohammed. Well, he's known as by another name that has its popularity and origin in this community. So here we go on.
Yes, Sam. So in the community, I'm popularly known as Troller Boy in the village.
Okay, what does that mean?
That's just a name that they give to me, Troller Boy, because I had a cousin who was born 2 years before me, and his name was Trolley.
Okay.
And when I was born, his sister told my wife, this tourism, we call this one Trollaball.
Okay. Trollaball. Okay.
Yeah.
Not trolling anybody though.
Huh?
Not trolling anybody.
No.
Okay. Okay, let's go. You had mentioned earlier on about the village council. I'm interested in that because that shows the interest of people in community development. And I think, can you tell me what part you played in that village council and what year it was and how the community was, what the support you received from the government agency and the village?
Okay. The village council, the meeting place used to be in our garage at home, 91 Buen Road. We had a well-inclusive team. We looked at the composition of the ethnic background. So we had, my brother Abdul was the president. I was a member of the committee. But we also had about 3 African brothers and sisters who took part in the village council.
Can you tell me what year was that?
That would have been in 1960, 61.
Okay.
About 15 years, 16 years of age.
Was that the time when the government and the Prime Minister, Dr. Ekule, was meeting the people tour?
At that time, Dr. Eric Turan was just coming into politics because we got independence in 1962.
No, well, he was there in 1956 from 1956.
Before, right. However, our amenities were lacking. We had poor road conditions, pitch roads, we had no electricity, no recreation ground. So they decided that they will develop community programs like for sporting activities and
You're speaking about the village council.
the village council.
Now, can you name some of the founding members?
Okay, Fizal Mohammed was the president. Buen was a member of the committee. Sonny Jugun was a member of the committee. Lloyd was a member of the committee. One Miss Naomi, Frederick was a member of the committee, and we had a few persons again, but these people are not around now, you know. So when we formed our village council, we decided to do things on a very professional level. So we kept in touch with the community development department, the village council felt. And in addition to that, they had the Trinidad and Tobago Association of Village Council. And they decided to run a professional training and development program for those who are interested in managing the affairs of village council. It is a program that runs for a year, you know, on weekends and so on and that.
Where was the venue? Where was the venue?
Oh, the venues would vary at different community centers.
Okay.
And the final program that we had was held at Nelson's Island, where we spent a weekend for evaluation and so on. And then after we had our graduation. And the graduation was held at Sisterhood Community Center.
Okay.
Back in the country. One of the things that we had to do under the assignment, we had to select some community projects. So my brother and I, along with the support from the village council, we ran a concert at the Trinidad Community Center. And a well-organized program, fees of charge and so on. And that was the first debut we had as young people participating in community work to that extent. So really we were exposed to the best when it comes to, community work that liaising with the community centers, the officers in the Village Council Association. I remember one of the guys was the president, was Mr. Shopton, and Village Council Association, and that turned out to be the springboard.
Do you know after one of the officers was Thompson?
Thompson?
Yeah.
Frank Thompson.
Frank Thompson, yeah.
Of course, nice, friendly guy.
There's a fellow named Cochrane too.
Who?
Cochrane. Cochrane.
Shopping?
Cochrane, P-C-K-R-I-N. Okay.
I remember Thompson well.
Thompson, yeah. He was a big man.
Gentleman.
Yeah.
There's a guy who used to be with them, but he had some peculiar ways. I'm trying to remember his name. Anyhow, I digress. So through the village council and the role that we played, from then I started taking part in social life, taking part in public speaking. As a matter of fact, when I stood up to speak in village council as a teenager, 15, 16 years, I felt butterflies on my back. Yeah, and all this motivated me to go and do the Dale Carnegie training program in 1970 and graduate with them. So, because of that kind of experience, that exposure, I started taking part in social events. Muslim program, Hindu program, varying programs. And it's interesting to know that, as I said, that was like the springboard. In the village, anybody who wants employment and so on, they will come to me for recommendation. I will give them recommendations and so on. Until I became a chief, where my staff in 1987 to help out people and so on. And that continued up to this special day. Now there is something I will talk about religious and social activities. Our village used to host some of the most beautiful Diwali celebrations. The whole village used to light up, strip bamboo and put it on shoulders and so on. But the Bonitento cultural branch road, that is the first branch road on the right. They started during a Diwali function. And I am one of the founders of that group. And we conducted annual Diwali celebration until 2019. And we stopped because of COVID. So at that time, the group had celebrated its 51st Diwali celebration.
I attended the last one, the following to Canada. I came there.
Every Diwali program that they had, I was always listed. Don't get me come there to give a message. So I do, select messages that's relevant to the occasion and so on. So really, over the years, a lot of strides were made in promoting Indian culture. Now, before those groups were formed, I remember serving the ULF, and I fought council elections, local government, Princestown. And I lost it by 40 votes because a campaign was carried out against me, called campaign by friends. That when I was a police officer with dogs, I used to chase some people out with farmers. Anyhow, that's beside the point. But what is very interesting is that while being involved in those kind of activities, Pandey had asked that we have a national Diwali celebration.
Who's Pandey?
Dr. Pandey.
He was what then?
He was the leader of the opposition.
Okay.
The ULF, Workers and Farmers Party started out there.
Okay.
Then he formed the ULF. And when they formed the ULF, and was selected to fight Princeton, and they talk about having the national Diwali celebration on the junction when you're coming in. That was an open pizza land. That is where we will set up and decorate and from. And I remember I had the leader of the opposition, Steve Marad. He came and he gave a message. But I had done...
You talking in the 60s, is it?
Yeah. I had done some background check on what it costs to have a 7-night year in the village. And the feedback I got for 7 nights, it was for $7,000. Paying the funded and meals and everything. And I remember that night when I spoke, I thought a challenge to the villagers that we should have a panchauti at night.
What is panchauti?
Panchauti at night is grouping of people together.
The villagers.
And it will cost $7,000. And after this celebration, we must get ourselves together and see if we can handle that as a project. That was the first project we handled after the Diwali celebration. And I told the guys in the committee, young Hindus and young females, that to prepare collection sheets for donation. And I want to get one sheet. I got one sheet with 46 lines.
Okay.
And I approached people that your contribution must be $100. I started $100. My brother, Fizal Mohammed, and whoever I went to, I went to those Hindu business people and so on, and when they saw what was going on, so I got $4,600 contribution.
Okay.
I remember I went to Gasparolo, where the mandir is behind the gas station, and Mr. Singh, who had the Singh Muhammad in Marabella. He said, about 5 young Muslim ones who didn't show up in contribution, and the balance of money that they had to contribute, they make it up. And I told them that go to every house and whatever they give, that is important. It's the most important. After we had the deadline to reach the $7,000, there was a little rift with certain people with regards to holding treasurer positions. So I wouldn't get involved in that among the Hindus who are around there. But they will come home by me and give me updates and so on. That Diwali year took place over the road where I live.
Okay.
So we were supervising and looking at it. And it's amazing that Pandit Hardeo was the Pandit who gave the sport system night. It's very impressive that one of the guys who live in the house where the year took place was a young policeman called Dwarka. He said, Fizal, we want you to meet with Pandit tonight when the year finished. So I recall they came and they carried me down, and I took the back step where I left my spare slippers. And when I went upstairs, a person who dominated the administrative part at that home there, he, his wife, and children would sit with Hardeo to have dinner. And no other members of the committee. So when I went and they told him that Fizal is here, this is your Pandit is eating, so you have to wait. And I recall I told Dwarka to bring my slippers to the front step. And I went straight back home. That guy was a kind of selfish brother.
Pandit?
No, I don't want to call him.
Oh, yeah, well, whoever was there.
Yeah, but he ended up as a principal in one of his schools. And imagine this yag was held in a man's place, Moturam's Ijai residence. They use his residence. They never introduced the Pandit to him. And they'll eat in the man's house. It tells you the quality of the people. So after the yag finished, I suggested to them that to form an Hindu organization to run all their affairs. I'm just an advisor. So while they were preparing for election, about 5 or 6 of the young fellas come to me. They had to an objection. So where's the objection? He said, we want you to be president of the Hindu group. And some of them objected. I said, they're right. You can't have a Hindu group with a Muslim heading it. I agree with them. And only don't take that as a fight. Give me support. And I continued doing that with them until we moved into the village where we had the 51 years or 52 years, we had this annual Diwali celebration. So really, I think I had a colorful lifestyle serving the community.
Okay. Well, I must commend you for that. Let's go back to the village council. What achievement you could boast about, apart from giving recommendation and so on, in terms of developing the community? Did you all have a community center?
No.
What else the village council did?
What happened? The village was predominantly Hindus.
Yeah.
We started building a mandir on a spot. That was built with Kara. And among the group, there are breakaway. And some members will go and build a mandir in the yard. So that divided the group. When they decide to have Diwali celebration, you find where you want to have everybody integrated into the celebration. You had a bunny tent off the road, bunny tent on the road.
Okay.
So they never had, the Hindus never stood up to get a member for the community.
Up to now,
Up to now. And that's very bad.
Very
and you had people who are prominent people,
You may have millionaires in the midst too, who knows?
right, who could have assisted. Whenever there are weddings and funerals and so on, always ask to make a contribution to speak. As a matter of fact, a month ago, one of the seniors died. She was 81 years of age. And I went to that service before the cremation. And there was a young pundit who was talking about people's lifestyle, that, you know, people are judged not by their wealth, not by their position and power, but it could be and how we must have role models. And I was surprised where I was sitting. Pundit was facing me, and I was sitting near one of the daughters who survived their mother. I went to her role model. He said, look at that gentleman there.
Different to you.
You see, I hope I call his name right, Fizal Mohammed. So I didn't correct him to say Fizal. You see, he's a man. Wherever I go, I find him taking part in functions. And when he was finished, I was asked to speak. Right? So what we do, build people personalities. And building people personalities even stronger than building people needs. But people forget the needs and reach a point that they have enough. They reluctant to share. But when you build people's character and personality, you can get people to, you know, participate and so on. So really, in the village there, in my humble way, I try as much as possible to keep families together. There are a lot of non-Muslim marriages that took place in the village that I had to play an integral part. And today, these are people that actually they have grandchildren now. And I feel good about it. And there is something I want to tell you. There are people who always have a bias about saying growth and development of people. I love to see people renovate their house, people rebuild their house, people buy a better car, people prepare their yard, and you know, that they can enjoy a nice, comfortable life. And I think that that's the role I play. And in Caroni, I was very instrumental in doing a lot of the job curricular activities. And when Caroni closed down, I was called by Dr. Ali to be as a consultant. So in 2003, May, when I went there, I went as a consultant.
Where did you go?
At SMJL.
Oh yeah, Sovereign Company.
2003. And I stayed there with the company. And all the knowledge and experience that I acquired over the years, I started implementing those things with the company. And I played the role as a father figure, a role model, person who did a lot of mediation. I represented the company in some of the subsidiaries, promoting civil center leadership principles and introducing that to better work performance. So that's it.
No, well, let's deviate a bit from that now. But did you have training in any other field?
If I
You had training in other field? Any professional training?
training?
Yes.
Oh yes. When we were involved with the Good Society, the Central Good Society was the PRO, our purpose was to produce healthy animals to promote high milk production. That if I myself imported an animal and dairy goat from London to bring the
Was it a private investment you made? Was it a private investment?
Yeah, that's a private investment, but I use that as an incentive for farmers to see what we can do.
So you had some followers in that?
I was the one who influenced a lot of people in the Southland to go into their goods, build the farm behind their homes. And I participated in a lot of agricultural exhibitions with my animals.
When you say animals, is it goat alone? Alone, eh?
Yeah, in that category. Apart from the dairy goats, I did training program like for the Hunters Association, the dogs, to make them life member.
Okay, did you speak about dogs, training dogs and so on before?
Yeah, we spoke about, but I just mentioned it too.
Okay.
Then I'm trying to see how we recapping that will be consistent. Coming back to the activities that I got involved in. On the job, on a professional standpoint, I was appointed as a member of the Bureau of Standards Footwear Committee.
Footwear Committee.
Footwear Committee. Bureau of Standards Gloves Committee. Personal protective equipment. We had...
Is that something pertaining to work situation?
Work, yes.
Work. So wearing apparel then, like shoes and clothes
Yes,
and
yes,
stuff.
yes. That many certain standards and so on.
Okay.
And that there's suitable footwear. And a simple thing like people who working on ladders
Yeah.
and utilities and so on, that we recommended that there is something called a shank that goes in the field here.
Yeah.
Because when you're standing on a ladder, it might be a round. And if your weight is 100 pounds, 200 pounds, the pressure will be there. Whereas with the shank is distributed.
Okay. But that's on the safety aspect of it. Yeah?
Yeah.
But did you have any training in safety?
Well, this is where I had my training from National Safety Council in Chicago. We had no training in Trinidad after we had the Bureau of Standards.
Okay.
No, Cipriani Labor College.
Okay. So whatever training you had was abroad?
Abroad. And it was conducted through the NECA safety National City Council. Then we formed the Safety Association in Trinidad and Tobago. And I was put on that committee to review the Occupation Safety and Health Bill in 1975, 76, 77. And that committee worked together for the refinement of that bill to the point where we lobbied with the Minister of Labour to get it to go to Parliament for the first reading. So really, I had a wide experience and involvement in promoting safety.
Okay, let's go to labor as probably a consultant if you were one of those, or as a labor representative. Did you do anything in the industrial court, like appear for people or give an opinion?
When is the labor representative?
Well, a union representative who
No, well,
represent.
I was a facilitator with the union to promote training their officers and promoting safety. And in the company, I trained supervisors to promote, to avoid industrial relation conflict.
But have you appeared before the industrial court in defense of somebody? Did you appear in the industrial court as an advocate, that is to defend somebody or prosecute?
No.
So you were never employed with a union, the trade union?
I went whilst I was representing the police association to reopen a matter that was settled, and it was resolved at the in the mediation process in the industry, and I was the representative.
What part did you play in the sugar workers trade union? All Trinidad and Tobago workers trade union.
The Sugar Workers Trade Union, currently limited, had 5 trade unions. The Sugar Workers Trade Union represented the average of 8,000 sugar workers. You had this SAISA, the Staff Association. You had ATAS. So that is where I was qualified to represent that senior body. You had the Pan Boilers Association. You had the Police Association. So in those forums, I assisted in conducting training and so on. Then we formed in 1983 the petrochemical industry. We formed what is called an organization called TIMAS, Trinidad and Tobago Emergency Aid Team. It was formed with representation from the fire services, the police. All represent from the oil sector and the petrochemical industry and Carney Limited. And with that, the executive always harnessed me with certain responsibilities as a person who could get the job done. And when I make that comment, this is what I mean. At Carney Limited and other companies, we would host our TIMAS meetings. But at Carney Limited, we had more facilities, and they always use me as a good resource. We had several simulation exercises. We had at Saboneta Ground, that is near Federation Chemical. We had offshore drilling at Miaro Recreation Ground. And one of the biggest simulation exercises we had was at Point Lisa, where we shut down the entire estate operation for 55 minutes, 1 hour. In that exercise, I was asked to be the medical coordinator. I just take it on and ask what to do. My job was to communicate with the Ministry of Health, communicate internally with our company, all our clinics and so on, and with the Ministry of Health, their clinics in the area, to take part in that exercise. I was charged with the responsibility of getting 28 employees prepared with collage being injured. That's it. Right there, I have photographs to show you my phone. Right? Then the second year, there were 2 medical people on the team. They took a decision that they won't fight with the medical coordinator, and I objected. I said, listen, you all are doctors. I don't think it's fair if I do medical coordinator. Then they highlighted to me, listen, we have a reason why we have you as a medical coordinator. You see, you could afford to write the chief medical officer through protocol as a medical coordinator. So we can't do that and dictate to tell you what we want. You say you did it and you get a chief medical officer.
Okay.
To have all the clinics, ambulance and ambulances and so on. So those are real nice experiences.
Okay, right. I wanted to do me a favor. Can you recap your achievements in Carolina Limited, because most of your time was spent in Carolina Limited? Okay, until it closed down. Recap it, like where you started and where you ended.
Okay. In recapping my activities in Carolina, whilst I was a police dog, trainer handler, I did a lot of work in security and even helping the government on request. As a matter of fact, when I came out from the police training college, one of the first assignments I had was to go with my dog on a rape and murder scene. When
you say with your dog, is that private dog or
no,
company's dog?
Company's police dog.
Okay. Okay.
Then in the field of safety, we managed to promote occupation safety and health to a high standard, where I formed 41 safety committees throughout the company and would supervise those committees, myself and through my officers. And they have to have monthly meetings, quarterly meeting where we do inspections for what we call departmental safety competitions. And the main objective was to reduce the causes of accidents. And we were quite successful in that. Um, when I became in charge of safety and health, we had about, annually we used to have about 8 to 900 in accident cases, lost time. But that used to be a little fraud matter because when workers know the truck coming to an end, they would feel that they slip and fall. And they get injury here, there, and so on. And they would continue to get workers' compensation until the end of the year when the truck would reopen in January and they get fixed.
Okay.
And one year I decided to call the medical doctor, the 4 medical officers and managers, and tell them that we do agree that you will have accident cases, you will have lost time, but we do have an abuse. And I want that we must check and see how many employees we have on accidents under 2 weeks. How many cases we have with employees who are injury for 3 months. And when we got all the information, we met with the doctors from the different regions in the company. And when the news went out that action is taken to follow up, it was amazing that over 60% of the people went and got sick.
Okay.
So at the time when the company closed down, where we used to have about 900 or 1,000 accidents, at that time, with 10,000 workers, all will have about 600 lost time.
Okay. Well, the operation like handling lock chain and, and gilpin, they call it cutlass, to cut the chain.
Okay.
And then rainfall.
Through the safety committee, we ensure that there are proper protective gears for the handling of lock chain. Because lock chain could damage your hand. For forklift for crane operators, guys who are working at the crane with handling lock chain, proper protective gears for people who are handling chemicals. So we decided to cut costs and reduce injuries, right? Just without our tax funds. So I asked a manager, 2 managers, area managers, to see from January to February how much money they spent in purchasing gloves. Because employees always complain that the threading in the gloves hurts them all the time. And when we got the feedback, sometimes for the month they may have to give a person 4 gloves. And when you check the price of the gloves, and 4, as against buying a more durable glove, they cost a little more that will last your whole month.
Okay.
And that was a program where we managed to cut down an expenditure with gloves. And that was done by asking Dipinda Manuchal, the managing director of Caribbean Safety Board, was my friend, to come and join in our meeting, hear what we're doing, and to produce a glove that is durable, that will be saving to the company and even to the supplier.
So you were seeking the interest of the company or the interest of the workers?
Generally, we're seeking the interest of the employees and also the company.
So you are the middleman there?
The middleman.
And you were in a managerial position also?
Chief Industrial Welfare and Safety.
That's a big post position. So you retired as what? What did you retire as?
As I told you, 2 years before the company closed down, they asked me to pick up the position. That is a dead-end position. And to take up the specialist position as a safety officer, where I look into the implementation of occupation, HR issues, and mediation and inquiries and so on.
That's when the company was holding up, is it?
While the company was operating. As a matter of fact, I was appointed as the chairman of an investigating committee with a team of 2 accountants, a police inspector and an attorney for the disappearance of $7 million in citrus at La Gloria.
And what was the result?
Huh?
What was the result?
What are we going to do? First, when they wrote the union that files with the chairman of the committee, there are qualification here to be chairman of the committee. And I told my HR manager, give me until tomorrow morning. And I took my certificate where the civil and criminal investigation and fingerprint. I give them my copy and they send it to the union. No problem. I conducted that inquiry. And in conclusion, we asked that the fraud squad come in. Because we found there was a lot of people who were culpable doing certain things. And if Carney was not in the verge of closing down, some of them would have got locked up.
You talking high officials or middlemen?
Managers.
But okay, let's come to that now. Would you say that one of the contributing factors that is responsible for carrying the closing down is because of corruption?
Well, some level of corruption.
Was it that?
But a great level of mismanagement.
Okay. So corruption was at its minimum? Was corruption at its minimum?
Corruption has played a role by actors at the low level with the approval of those to the top.
Okay. Okay, so the people who are charting the course of the company were devising from time to time programs and so on for the survival of the company or the prosperity of the company. Would you say they were responsible in some measure for the closure or the downfall of the company?
Before Carney Limited, closure was unknown. The company was on a mass diversification program. We started the expansion of rice.
Rice. Okay. They were diversifying. Okay.
They went into intercropping, growing food crops, planting, pawpaw, citrus, and so on. And as a matter of fact, La Gloria was one of the very productive area with citrus. Tudhood was another area very productive. They had La Gloria and Moora Valley with the Buffalo, where Moora Valley had about 1,000 heads of buffalo. La Gloria had about 800 heads of buffalo. Manjadu had the dairy farm where they were producing milk and sheep and so on. Then they had the distillery that had millions of dollars in stock, full stock with alcohol and so on. They went into aquaculture, where they start producing prawns at Orange Grove. So they were carrying those.
What they produce then? Tilapia? Is it tilapia? Fish?
That's tilapia and that's prawns.
Prawns, yes?
Prawns is a kind of big shrimp.
Okay. So what happened? How these things collapse like this?
Well, with the closure of Carney, everything has collapsed. It was a free fall.
And what became of the assets?
The assets, it was manipulated on the political forefront.
Well, probably the direct blame should be on the government. But do you think that Carney Limited was overstaffed?
No, it was a manageable workforce for the productivity that they're having and so on.
No, I'm talking about the top management, like political appointees or whatever you would say.
Well, I wouldn't say that the managerial level was overstaffed, because there are certain critical functions that must be carried out with certain positions. And it was a well-structured organization, because they kept doing restructuring and restructuring. But the fact about it is that we had a problem where, as a political government, as a state-owned company, and you have people who are aligned to the government. They might be involved in decision making. They might be involved in having to correct certain things, take certain action. They were very reluctant.
Okay, because it would have offended the political and bureaucracy. Is that so? If they had taken action, they would have upset the apple cart. Okay. So, well, they couldn't have stemmed the decline. Could they have stemmed the decline?
Decline?
Yeah, the company is declining. Is it so?
Well, when they talk about food and carony, the morale of the people really dropped. Productivity started to decline, because the sugar production, which used to be about 200,000 tons, went down to about 150,000 tons, and then it started going down until it reached under 100,000. Because fields are not properly maintained.
So you're speaking, how many years preceding that did this happen?
No, I think within the last 5 years.
Before it closed here. But you all felt that the company would have been closing down.
Well, we were hearing talks then, well, through the grapevine, politics, that company may close down. But we were not sure because politicians have a way to deny that they are doing it until eventually it happens.
As a thief in the night? So if you were there, what you would have recommended as a general manager?
As general manager of the company?
Yes, what would have recommended? How would have steered the company away from this decline?
But that's a very difficult question and situation to handle because we already have a board of directors and an executive management team that have to work in coordination. It's not a one-man show. We had consultation where we come up with ideas and so on to improve productivity and to reduce wastage and all sort of things.
But what aspect of the company was draining the revenue of the company? What aspect? What? With the rice planting?
Okay. As a sugar producing company, you will sign contracts to sell the sugar.
Yeah.
And that will be guaranteed foreign exchange. And guaranteed foreign exchange is that a whole crop will be sold in advance.
Okay.
And the company was giving government subvention in those years, 500,000, to keep the company afloat and going. But you still have so much of revenue coming in, right? Whereas today you don't have a company and you're spending a few, maybe $1 billion in CPEP and all this kind of things. So really,
in non-productive revenue generating, well, I don't call it an enterprise, a social giveaway to the unemployed, the partially employed.
Well, I could tell you I am. In my area of activity, I always have the passion to prevent accidents from happening. The preventive aspect, the implementation part of recommendation, and the prompt action and having implementation.
But you were decisive. You were decisive.
Well, I will make recommendations.
But
and the management will carry out directives.
Okay, so you were limited to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But who you attribute this? You already answered the question, but again, knowing from what you said, you believe the people at the top, were responsible for this demise of this company. Would you say that?
Well, remember, as a state company, they will have board members of your choice. The state company. And it is the decision that they make that follows.
Well, the board. But the final decision is the government.
Well, the board will be preview of what happened.
Well, they had a feeling. You please contact the minister or whoever, and so on. Well, do you want to say anything again that you were very forthright? Okay, what you have been hearing here is a discourse of a very good friend here, and I asked him certain questions. He answered in a forthright manner and honestly as possible. And as you know, as you have judged, and you will be judging this when you see it, that he is quite eloquent in the manner in which he speaks, down to it, and he sees of the facts. It's no guess game, right? So I must commend you, Mr. Fizal, for having given us an education in the village life of this village called Buen, and Caroni Limited, which is the workers and the villagers are intricately bound to Caroni Limited while it existed. There are certain still unresolved issues with the sugar workers finding proper compensation or not receiving the housing lots and so on. What do you have to say about that?
What are they?
The housing, the lots and so on they were supposed to receive.
The government had introduced what is called the Sugar Welfare Committee.
Okay.
And the Sugar Welfare Committee was introduced many decades ago. And they give lands to qualified employees, and they give, in those days, loans to sugar workers. Even your village there, the Kumar village,
Yes.
Some of the street by the Babulal there, all those are sugar welfare. But the government has pulled down sugar welfare.
Where did it go?
They switch it on to housing development. But that was a special kind of what they call program that they had for the sugar workers. So I have benefit from that then.
But those, if you look at the history of it, that flowed from the colonial age, in the 50s. The Sugar Welfare Labor Committee, that
was introduced in the days of the colonial days. And
yeah, 1915, Williamsville, Kumar village, they started giving out lots in 1950. It took about 2 years to develop it.
And loans were given at a limited amount, and maybe because of that, and that 15 years to pay it off, and after 15 years they got a deed for the land. So it was a good incentive. It's not like national housing where people getting houses and paying rent $100 a month.
If I were to show you something, how much you're paying a national $50-something for an apartment, I have a document to show that, like 2 years ago. Well, I'm talking about not sugar welfare. I'm talking about they were to receive, I think, a lot as compensation for having been entrenched from Caroni.
You mean with the Puja Caroni?
Yes.
No, but that is different. They give each worker a lot of land and 2 acres of agricultural land.
Okay.
No. I have spent 40 years and a half I got my one lot. We built a house for my daughter. But I haven't gotten a tweeter.
But there's non-existent
And you
land?
have people who work 2 years and they get the 2 lots already.
Yeah, I know. And where they get it? Some of them got it in 5 years.
Well, the way they distribute it, people just eager to take what they get. Now, with 19 years now, the company closed down. Almost 2 decades. And there was no real preparation how to handle food security when Charlie closed down. And a good example is Citrus Growers Association had citrus farmers who will provide the citrus to the factory. Charlie Limited used to supply hundreds of tons of citrus from Sudbury and La Gloria regularly to citrus growers. And because of the closure of Karen, we run into a problem. Now, I'm a man fortunate to wear a lot of hats. When I was at SM Jalil bought Citrus Growers Association in Laventille. And when they bought it, all the plan was that they will be getting local supplies of citrus. But that's the time that they closed down the industry and they start giving out the land crazy. And yeah. And our citrus, local citrus production fell flat that we had to import citrus from the leaves.
And the citrus rotten in the field now.
Well, it was managed.
But no, is there these trees are still standing?
Well, you have trees standing, but remember,
No maintenance.
no maintenance.
Overgrown and what's it? All right, that's one. What about the rice industry? How productive is that?
Okay. The rice industry is going very well. The company had thousands of acres under rice cultivation. But the farmers face problems when they produce the rice. Natural sit down. What do you call it? NFM.
National Flowers Mill. Flower Mill.
They had a problem with them in Pain Leaf and breeding the rice and allowing it to spoil. And I read up to about 2 weeks ago where farmers have to give up their farm for their own big money to the bank.
Okay. Now, the coconut, what do you have to say about the coconut industry? Did Charlie Limited, were they involved in the production of coconut?
Well, we never went into coconut.
And that industry collapsed also, the coconut industry?
Well, they had a problem in the coconut industry with red ring and those sort of things.
Okay. But that is uncontrollable?
But I feel
गाने रे 4 दिन की जवानी तेरी हाय रे गम की कहानी छोटी से ये जिंदगानी रे 4 दिन की जवानी तेरी हाय रे गम की कहानी तेरी शाम हुई ये देश वीराना तुझको अपने बलम घर जाना सजन घर जाना शाम हुई ये देश वीराना तुझको अपने बलम घर जाना सजन घर जाना राहे मूरत मत लुट जाना छोटी सी जिंदगानी रे 4 दिन की जवानी तेरी हाय रे गम की कहानी तेरी छोटी सी जिंदगानी रे 4 दिन की जवानी तेरी हाय रे गम की कहानी तेरी बाबुल का घर छूटा जाए अकियने घोर अंधेरा छाए दिल घबराए बाबुल का घर छूट जाए अकियने